Hello, I'm Toycat, and there is a brand new Minecraft update that includes features like frogs and frog light, as well as a ton of parity fixes, and also over 100 different bugs have finally been fixed for Minecraft users. This sounds like great news until you realize one of those bugs is incredibly controversial, and I wanted to talk about it because it's one of those weird examples where fixing a bug actually makes Minecraft worse for a select community, and I wanted to talk about all of those things and more with today's video, which I hope you will enjoy. You can of course subscribe if you want to see the latest news as it comes out for Minecraft, maybe even subscribe with those notifications turned on. But let's start talking about 1.18.10, the new update available today for every Minecraft platform that just says Minecraft at the top, i.e. that is not the 1.18.2 update, which is currently being snapshotted and pre-tested on Java. That is a separate update because the Bedrock updates generally have a 0 at the end when they're major minor versions, which is confusing to say. Let's now talk about all of the features inside 1.18.10, starting with a brand new banner pattern. This is the glow pattern, and it used to be a Java exclusive for reasons we genuinely cannot work out as a community, but now it is available in Minecraft Bedrock. You can obviously get it by going into creative, or you can get it by trading with a villager. It's a weird exclusive that can't be crafted the normal way. Maybe that's why they didn't add it for some time. All I know is it seems a little bit like it's a globalist conspiracy, something you can now represent inside of Minecraft. Or you could be more normal and make like an almost UN logo style thing. You've got lots of choices is my point, and that's the first of the parity changes. They've also made a change which is iron golems now showing the different degrees of cracking depending on their health. The reason I think this one's important is not just because like it's useful to see how much health an iron golem has, because as you punch and you punch and you punch, he gets more and more damaged, but because speedrunning requires iron golems in lots of cases, for random seeds at the very least, it's always one of those areas where the differences between Java and Bedrock are most clear, and I like that they're finally making that one of those small bits of parity. Also, they updated several more textures to match the Java edition of the game, again bringing a little bit of parity in that sense. And then finally, here's where things get weird, because they added the experimental features of frogs and tadpoles. And you might be saying, wait, aren't frogs and tadpoles 1.19 features? And yes, you would be correct in assuming that. However, Minecraft is making changes in how you can test their game and the future things coming to it, because obviously on the Java edition you can just download a snapshot. Everyone knows how to do it. It's easy. It's great. But on the Bedrock edition, if you want to like test new features, you have to be on one of the beta platforms, and it's a whole mess. And so what they've been doing for a while now is they roll these features out into the base game. They just put it behind the experimental toggle, which means now you can play around with these. Again, they're experimental features. They're not meant to release until 1.19 in the next few months or years, who knows. But when 1.19 releases, it will have frogs and tadpoles. It's just you can play around with them a little bit early if you really want to. And so that is really interesting, that basically they have this second option for players like you and me who just download the regular versions of the game. But then it gets even more interesting, because in the last week they also announced the Minecraft preview program, which is currently available for iOS and Xbox. Xbox is where my editor, Harrison Gray, is playing the preview in case you're curious. And so that is now a program that is separate to the betas that also lets you play around with early features, and they announced the brand new preview version. You know, Minecraft Bedrock is very fractured by nature because there's so many platforms, but they're doing a good job in helping us, the users, test things so that fewer bugs make it into the game. We'll talk about the bugs, by the way, because there's so many bugs that they fixed in this update, like as well as this long list of vanilla parity changes, i.e. making Minecraft Bedrock more like Java. So things like the raid boss bar changing the text that it shows with the fireworks coming from the ground. That's pretty fun in my opinion. Villagers having a no sound when attempting to make a trade that they're out of stock with. You know what? More people who play Minecraft do need to realize that no is a valid option when trying to make a trade. And speaking of things that are very valid, yeah, there's a ton of parity changes. Basically, they're doing a good job, or at least a big job, in trying to just do the tiny things that make Minecraft Bedrock and Java different, that aren't so fundamental and don't need to be that way. And so yeah, different file names have been changed. Beetroot and melon seeds are slightly changed in their textures. There's all sorts of very odd changes that you wouldn't think about, but now have been fixed or are in parity with Java, whichever way you want to see things. But before we talk about the controversial bug fix and the less controversial bug fixes, I want to talk about another change they're making to make Minecraft fit in with what you might expect from it, at least if you're a South Korean player. So there's two other things listed under the changes section of the changelog for this update. One is that world settings can now be changed directly on realms, just like local worlds. This is an improvement for a realms player. I know a lot of you want that, but a lot of you also aren't South Korean, but you might be interested to learn about the gameplay timers that were added to the game. There are now gameplay timers and notices that have been added in compliance of local gaming laws to remind players to take occasional breaks from gameplay. We're so fascinated by this line on the changelog, I had to look it up, and here is some interesting information information that you might want to learn about. Did you know that until last year in Korea, if you were under the age of 16, you couldn't play online games between midnight and 6 a.m. Like, games had to legally shut you out between those times. However, they changed that law. They got rid of that ban this year, but they replaced it with mandatory timings and things to make sure that parents are aware of how long you're playing video games to discourage gaming addiction, which is very interesting by itself. And then I also learned while looking into that China has a gaming curfew, which means that if you're under 18, you can't play games at all between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. I think these are really interesting laws because on the one hand, I assume, like, shouldn't the parents be seeing what their children are doing? Like, should we need, like, countrywide laws to prevent people from playing games between those times? But then I think to myself, well, actually, my parents probably wouldn't have wanted me playing game. I woke up at 4 a.m. to play RuneScape in some cases, and they probably wouldn't wanted that. Wouldn't it be handy if the online game was blocked? But then I think to myself, well, you know what? If I'm going through that much effort to play games at 4 a.m., I probably can also just download a VPN. And then I think about it all the time, and I just think, isn't it interesting how we have different norms about whose responsibility it is when you play games, depending on the culture? And aren't you glad you live in a culture where you don't have to stop playing games at certain times between certain hours? I think that's interesting, at least. And so finally, we have the controversy that revolves around bug fixes. Because most bug fixes, people go, yeah, isn't that a positive improvement? Did you know they fixed an issue that could cause entities in a chunk to not save when exiting a world? No one goes, no, I wanted my entities to leave when I exited my world. Or the game now loads certain seeds and worlds around mesa biomes without crashing. That is one of the funniest little bugs that has led to so many weird things that people haven't even realized. It's also fixed a ton of different things regarding boats and the Iron Belly achievement and cameras and all sorts of great things. However, they've also made 2 changes to furnaces which seem pretty innocuous, but let me read them out to you. Furnaces now consistently output the expected number of items after completing a smelt. That seems like a good one. And then stored experience in a furnace can no longer be duplicated. Also known as MCPE 71,777. What a nice number for a bug, by the way. This is a bug that has been in Minecraft for quite some time now, and for some players it's their primary source of experience because it is definitely the fastest way to get XP in general. In case you're curious as to how fast it can be, because it duplicates the experience for items which were held inside of a furnace connected to hoppers, the more you smelted, the more you could duplicate that XP. The stage where you could get 10 levels for every single item you smelt, or obviously that amount of experience, or 20 levels, or 30 levels, or Adorable Ho, who does some of the background building for this channel, and IBX Toy Maps, he was trying to get it so he could get 10,000 levels from a single smelt, which is entirely possible if you throw enough items in there, and so getting 10,000 levels for every item you smelt is obviously broken. I think even getting 10 levels per smelt, everyone would say, yeah, that seems a bit broken. So what was the justification? Why would people be angry at this being removed? First of all, whenever people use any bug, there's a little bit of indignation when it's removed because it becomes part of how you play. They're changing the game to make it worse for you. There's no argument about that. But I think there's a much more interesting and deeper argument that is that Minecraft Bedrock just doesn't have effective XP farms. In fact, if you look at pretty much any farm that exists on Bedrock, in fact, if you're a Bedrock player, you'll know that every time you want to look up a mob farm, you look up mob farm and it's like, ooh, these are really good. You look up mob farm Bedrock and it's like, these are weird and they just don't work as well, which is the general case for every mob farm that exists. Even the most effective Bedrock mob farms are generally less effective than the Java equivalents, even for the exact same thing, because Bedrock spawn mechanics are just so different and so strange and so much less, useful for, farming, that people find it to be very hard to farm the experience. And so their argument is, well, if you're not going to give us XP farms, we're going to use the bug that hasn't been fixed, except now they finally have decided to do so. And so, yeah, this is something I didn't want to talk about on my channel because I try not to exploit active bugs and, like, help people exploit active bugs, but I do think that there is a very good argument that they're making in there that, yeah, Minecraft Bedrock farms are really janky. In fact, they're so janky that if you ever make a farm in a few updates from now, that farm might not work because it probably relies on some bug to make it work. I think this is a really hard problem to fix too, because it's not like you can just say, yeah, let's never fix those janky weird bugs. And so obviously, what is the solution? On the Java edition, they actually have just said, okay, if you like a weird janky bug and you use it in your farm, we're not going to fix it. And I think that that's caused them all sorts of problems over the last few years. So what is the solution here? You can say, okay, we'll help you make your farms that you really want to make by not removing bugs that make them possible, but then you're just admitting that Minecraft is buggy when it's convenient. When people are mad enough about a bug, you're not going to fix it, which doesn't make any sense. Or you can say, okay, we're going to fix all the bugs on the Bedrock and Java versions, and you can make a lot of people mad, and you can break a lot of people's hard work and things they've done in their existing worlds, something you recall is one of the very few directives that Minecraft doesn't want to break, or you can say, okay, we're going to go for some weird middle ground solution where we're not going to fix most Java bugs, but we will fix most Bedrock bugs because most of our developers play Java over Bedrock. And that's the weird compromise I think they've ended up on. I think this is one of those key examples where obviously understanding Minecraft Bedrock as a Minecraft Java developer, or even just as a Minecraft developer who doesn't work on either of the versions specifically, can be really challenging. Even as someone who plays Bedrock basically every day, it's so hard for me to work out why some things work the way they do. Again, I've built a couple of farms by following tutorials, and I'm like, wait, why does this work that way? You know, the Enderman farm, I have no idea why the Enderman farm worked when it did, and I have no idea why my Enderman farm stopped working. It just did, and I kind of had to trust that. And so obviously I'm not the player to have any clue about this, but if you are a Minecraft developer making serious changes to mechanics for mob spawning or for how any of the things used for farms work, I think it'd be a good idea to either be really into the technical game yourself, or find someone like Silent Whisperer, who is of course the Minecraft Bedrock bug man, find someone like him who knows what he's talking about, and just ask a few questions like, hey, would this hurt the Bedrock community? Because of course, the Java community is generally more vocal, but that doesn't mean that their needs should be placed higher. Or do you think it does? Do you think that the more vocal you are, the more your opinion matters? That's how some of the real world works, sadly, and maybe that's how the Minecraft world should work. But for now, I just wanted to kind of mention that, yeah, this is a good update. They've got a few cool changes, including letting everyone play around with the frogs and the frog lights. They've got some cool changes regarding parity. They've even got the cool change that made me look up the South Korean gaming law, which is fascinating and very different. But yeah, this was recorded in a hotel room again. I'm sorry if you could hear the echo. It's like the oldest, weirdest hotel I've ever stayed in. I'll post a video on Andrew Andrews if you want to see what's going on with that. I'm actually in Seattle, Washington right now, about to head up to Canada in case you're curious, and the background gameplay is a really fun new project. I hope we can finish the editing on this week because it's one of my favorite Minecraft projects I've ever worked on, and I hope that doesn't spoil anything for you. But if you want to hear about what's going on in my life, where I am, etc., or you want to hear about Minecraft news, you can follow me at IBXToyCat. For now, I hope you have a very good day, because I'll see you all tomorrow for Let's Play Wednesday, which is definitely the day that usually comes out on. Okay, thank you, goodbye.